That's okay. It had to start. Okay.
evening, everyone. How you doing? Can you hear me? Sorry. Wait, a little mic on. There we go. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. Excellent. How you doing, everyone? Thank you so much for coming here tonight to Furman University. My name is Omar Carmenates, and I'm the Director of Percussion Studies here at Furman, and it's my pleasure to introduce you to the Furman Percussion Ensemble and our spring concert. Tonight is a wonderful evening of celebrating the hard work of these students. They've been working since January on this program. In fact, just because I heard some Moroccans in the audience, who here was with our GSO? There we go. Wow. Okay, a bunch of people. So 2 weeks ago, we actually had the privilege of playing a joint concert with the Greenville Symphony with a completely different program. And here we are here with our spring program, a completely different set of music, minus one piece. But that first piece you heard is called Cars 1 by the Armenian jazz, heavy metal, piano player, it's hard to peg him in a box, by the name of Tigran Hamasyan. And the piece was arranged by my colleague at the University of North Carolina School of the Arts, Ksenia Komjanovich. Thank you. And what we have next for you is a really fun piece. We have the lights up for a reason. It's because this piece down here is going to get played for you, entitled Movements. This is a piece that is for 4 sideways tom-toms, so you guys want to hold up a tom real quick, just so you can see it. Yep, and those are normally drums that we play vertically. There's some up here on stage. And basically you're going to see everything you can possibly do with a tom in this piece. So I hope you enjoy Movements by Pascal Leboeuf. enjoyed that one. It's a fun one. That piece was actually only written recently. As you probably can see by looking at the program, most of this music, I think, is written in the past 5 years. I'm doing that off of memory, so don't quote me. One of the best things about our world, in my opinion, is that we sort of live in the time of when all the great music is being written for our instrument. Meaning, you know, string players kind of have Mozart and Beethoven and all that. We don't have that in the percussion world. And we're kind of living in the time now where there's a bunch of masterworks and great works being written for our instrument. And so I'd like to liken it to that we are living in the time of Mozart and Beethoven, but for us, here as percussion. We're kind of known as like the young punks on the block, classically, in the classical world. The raucous ones, you know, the ones that play all these crazy things and do all these crazy things with our instrument. So I hope you enjoyed that one as well. Next up, y'all change stages really fast. Thank you. Next up is another really interesting piece for you. It's 4 people on 1 vibraphone, also playing decibels. You know, give me a tap. There we go. You might have seen them in an elementary school classroom. They're pitched instruments as well. And this is written by a friend of mine named Victor Cachese, who is a member of Sandbox Percussion, who you may have seen touring around. They've been to Greenville 3 or 4 times, including on this stage last year. And Cachese is Victor was one-fourth of that group and wrote this work. Bell patterns, I always get the name wrong, so that's why they're laughing. And it's based on all these sort of mathematical relationships between the rhythms that are being played on the vibraphone and the rhythms that are being played on the decibels. So it gets pretty complex pretty quickly, and I think you'll see what I mean in just a moment. So hope you enjoy Bell Patterns. Darn it! Bell Patterns by Victor Cachese. And that's really difficult, by the way. I know they kind of make it look easy, but it's actually incredibly hard. So moving on, the next piece, I feel guilty introducing my own piece. But the next piece is something I'm going to ask a little bit of your patience on, because it's listed in the program as a workshop premiere, or a workshop performance. The reason is the piece just got finished. And it's actually not written for us, it's written for another trio. Those of you that were around last spring for our concert may remember that I was on sabbatical, and the program is being run by Emma Gierzon, and along with the program, Eastman School of Music alum currently teaches at the Crane School of Music. She has a trio called 3D Percussion, and they're currently making the rounds, doing the professional touring thing, and during the end of her time last year, we talked about me writing a piece for them. And I said, well, I have this idea for a piece that's been stewing around in my head for a while, but tell me if this is too crazy. I pitched it, and they're like, no, let's do it. And we'll do it for the 2024-2025 season. One thing led to another, I got behind, they got busy. It wasn't able to be played this year on their season, and I was like, that's great, I'm not going to get it done in time anyway, so why don't we play it next year, and in the meantime, I'll make sure it works with my students. So that's what we're doing here tonight, is we're checking, we're giving this sort of pseudo-premiere performance. It's a little bit of checking just to make sure that the piece works, because it's very complicated. The tech inner workings are a bit complicated, and I kind of wanted to tell you about what's going on. So it's a trio. My setup's over there with the 2 microphones. Kendall here has a microphone with mics. Joe here has his drum set with a microphone on his kick drum and his snare drum, his bass drum, with his foot and his snare drum. Behind all of this, when we press play on the computer up here, there's going to be silent music playing in the background that you do not hear, we do not hear. Okay, and basically what's going to happen is what's called being gated in audio production terms, meaning there's a gate that's shut. The gate opens when it's triggered by something. In this case, the gate is the instruments on stage. So, for instance, what you'll hear is on the kick drum, there's this constant bass drone. If I were to unmute everything, there would just be this bass drum going ball, ball, whatever, it's just going. But because it's gated, it only opens when Joe hits his kick drum. So you hear boom, boom, boom. And there's like little melodies in there that Joe can play, can improvise around, and can sort of mess with to create his own little version of the piece. Same with my part, and a little bit the same with Kendall in a way. The piece is called side change because in audio production terms, that's when one audio element is affected by the input of another, meaning a snare drum maybe makes the volume of a microphone drop. So all of our parts are interconnected through the computer, and everything you hear is triggered live. I just wanted to, most everything is triggered live, hopefully. Hopefully. So again, bear with us, this is a workshop premiere. We got the board set up, excellent. And this is the first public performance of this piece, Sidechain, if it works. Here we go. composing my own pieces before, but rarely sitting there hoping, oh my god, I hope this works, I hope this works, I hope this works. So I'm glad everything worked, I think. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that one. We are going to take a moment now to make a little presentation. I warned the students about this, but I didn't tell them what. So I warned them I'm not leaving, so they know that. But it's time. I wanted to bring someone on stage to talk about something new-ish that we've been working on for about a year now. And I want to bring to stage a couple people, but first, to introduce some of our speakers here, I'd like to introduce my predecessor, the person who ran this program before me for many, many years, and who I really look up to and is a dear friend of mine. I'd like to bring John Beckford up to the stage.
Show. It's great stuff. Well, good evening. My name is John Beckford, and in 1976, I was hired as Furman's first full-time percussion instructor. I taught in that position until 2008, when I moved to administrative post, and Furman had the good fortune to hire Dr. Omar Carmenates, a doctoral candidate at that time from Florida State University, and a student of one of my former students, Dr. John Parks. Throughout my years at Furman, it had always been my dream to see and establish a music scholarship that was specifically designated to a percussionist. We never had one before. I have a planned gift in my will to help bring this dream to a reality, but it was last spring's Dins Day that I was scrolling through all the various things you could contribute to, and I noticed the Ward and Laura Keeney had established a significant planned gift recognizing excellence in percussion. Well, Ward had been one of my very first percussion students when I arrived in 1976. He was a junior political science major who was heavily involved in music activities at Furman. He played in the symphonic band, the orchestra, he was the section leader of the marching band, and the marching band's drum line. He took private lessons from me for those last 2 years that he was at Furman. And like so many of our talented non-music majors, he followed his passion for creating music at an institution where we celebrate and accommodate students interested in continuing their music, even though they may be majoring in some other area. Well, Ward happened to meet his wife, Laura, a Winthrop University graduate and elementary school teacher, on the tennis court. This was after they graduated, and then it was essentially in those games that he was playing with them, after just 2 games, according to him, it was game, set, love, and match. 2 years later, they married, and this year they celebrated their 45th wedding anniversary. Now, Ward never lost interest in playing percussion, nor his love for Furman. However, his career was focused on developing a home inspection firm that ultimately grew to be the largest home and commercial inspection firm in all of South Carolina. A few years back, he retired and made his permanent home north of here, up at Caesar's Head. Yes, he had to evacuate a couple weeks ago, but fortunately, he's been able to return to his home untouched by the flames. This location, however, has allowed him to stay in touch with Furman, where he attends concerts and plays percussion with the Lakeside Concert Band in the summers. Well, over this last summer, we decided we should not wait for the 2 of us to die and to get this scholarship off ground. So with the help of John Kemp and Luz Ruiz from the Development Office, we started a campaign to raise enough money to meet the minimum account requirements to establish and activate a scholarship. If we could reach that goal by December 31st of this year, we could award the very first Laura and Ward Keeney Excellence in Percussion Scholarship for the 25-26 academic year. It was a great experience reaching out to over 300 students who had passed through the percussion studios of Dr. Carmenates and myself. And not just percussionists. When word got out that we were raising money for this scholarship, even non-percussionists were contributing because they too supported the idea of establishing a percussion scholarship. But before I ask Ward to say a few words, let me remind all of you in this audience tonight that you too can contribute to this scholarship fund during this year's DINS Day, which is our big university fundraising day. This year it's going to be on April 29th. Scroll through all the various programs that you can contribute to and look for the Laura and Ward Keeney Scholarship and help us continue to build this fund. Moreover, you can donate often and at any time simply by going to the Development Office's website and contribute as frequently as you'd like and as much as you can. When you hear the great music that is being performed tonight on this stage, I hope that you'll feel compelled to support this percussion scholarship. And now, for the one who really started all of this from the class of 1978, Ward Keeney.
John has never been bashful about asking for money, that's for sure. You know, when Laura and I established this scholarship, we did not realize that there had never been a percussion scholarship. And that makes this moment to us that much more special. And our hope is that we can assist a percussion student that'll have a Furman experience that was very similar to mine. So we wish the recipient good luck. Thank you.
So after a few meetings with my chair, Randy Umstead, in the past few weeks, we even held off giving this award. This past Tuesday was our honors recital, and we thought it'd actually be more poignant to give it at this concert because we're amongst our people here. So we wanted to take a moment and award the very first Ward and Laura Keeney Scholarship to the man you see on stage here, Joe Bridger. So as I warned you, I did not warn Joe in advance, so I don't know if you want to say anything, but... Okay. But congratulations, Joe. Thank you, Ward. Thank you, John, for putting this in motion, making this... I mean, they completely ran with this, and I helped where I could, called some alums, but really this is Ward, Laura, and John's dream here, so we're so thrilled to offer this to Joe, the very first one. Right, so congratulations once again. We're going to take, speaking of awkward segues, we're going to take a really brief intermission to reset the stage to perform our next two pieces. So give us one moment, and we'll get back to you in just about 5 minutes. All right, here we are. Thank you for your patience there. Just a quick little set change before our last two pieces of the evening. Next up, if you attended our Greenville Symphony concert, this is one of the pieces we did carry over from this program, and it's actually one of my favorites. It's one of my brand new favorite pieces ever. It just came out, at least publicly, via YouTube in January, I believe, or December. And it is a piece entitled Reminder, Grow, Reflect, Repeat by the composer Nick Zulik, also as a multimedia artist. He's known as a saxophonist, an improviser, filmmaker, and his work this work in particular sort of encompasses all of that in interesting ways. This is another 4 people, 1 instrument, or 8 hands piece as we call it, with 4 people on 1 instrument here on marimba. And there's a video accompanying it that I think is really poignant, really beautiful, in its own unique way, especially for those of us. I was joking with the kids, with the students this morning about how I don't know if I'm a millennial or a Gen Xer or something. I'm like in that little gap, like 81, I was born in 81. And we had tape recorders, but we have social media, like that, right? And this piece is actually based around tape recorders, and using tape recorders as a means of capturing memory. And so what you'll see, we have some tape recorders up here, which are very hard to get these days, by the way. It took me a month to find these. I ordered some 3 times. They were all back ordered, and I was like scrambling. Some arrived yesterday, and 3 more are going to arrive in like a month. So I'm going to have 9 tape recorders that I don't know what to do with. But anyway, so they're actually going to record some things while they're playing, and you'll see how with the film, how that interacts and what that means. There's also some other things like electric toothbrushes here. We know what toothbrushes look like, but yep, there it is. And it's just a really poignant piece that we really enjoy, and we've had a lot of fun playing it a bunch this semester. So this is Reminder, Grow, Reflect, Repeat by Nick Zulik. All right, I hope you enjoyed that one. That's a really beautiful piece. I've really fallen in love with that one. I think the students have too. So we got one more piece left for you tonight, and I'm going to try and install a little bit while we move a little bit of equipment around one more time before we perform this last piece. But before I introduce our final guest for the evening, as well as the piece that we're going to play tonight, I want to take a moment and thank all of you for coming tonight to support us in our endeavors here in our studies at Furman, and to support these students for all the hard work they've done. I say this every semester, but I feel like it's appropriate to say it every single time, because I will never stop shouting this from the rooftop. But these are some of the best students around. You know, I really do appreciate it. The things they manage to do in a given semester or in a given year are just off the charts. You know, in terms of the amount of things, the quality, the hours they put in. I mean, we were in dress rehearsal today from 8 a.m. to 3:30. Yeah. And in the original schedule, like, oh, we'll get done at 2. But they didn't even question it. They were here, and we went through everything. We got all the tech working, and we got all the pieces working. And to be honest, this morning, the playing was the least of my worries. It was just to make sure that the stage flow went well and the electronics all worked and everything else. I knew when I woke up this morning that these students here were just going to throw down and be dependable and be absolute professionals. And that's every semester. I really believe that. And it's a tribute to their hard work. One thing I say a lot too is we're undergraduates only here at Furman University, mostly. But in the studio, we're only undergraduates, and we compete with the best of them, literally. 3 years ago, we had the pleasure of winning the International Percussion Ensemble competition for the Percussive Arts Society. Amongst, I think there were maybe 24 entries from around the world, and we were selected amongst the best 3 and performed at this massive convention in Indianapolis. And our compatriots, they select 3 winners every year. Our compatriots were the Eastman School of Music and Texas Christian University, both massive percussion programs with graduate students, you know, that are like 28 years old. And here we are with our 18 to 21-year-olds hanging right there with them. And we do this every day, of course. And just to tie a little bow on the scholarship talk too, reaching out to the alumni last spring, and I want to thank Ward for doing and John for reminding me to do that last spring. But just reaching out to all the alumni that ended up donating over, I've been here 17 years, and just having the opportunity to reconnect with those students and for them to be like, I watch what you do every semester that these former students are saying, and I can't believe what the percussion program is doing and has done. Really warms my heart to know that there's just such a long lineage of excellence here at Furman Percussion. So I want to give one big round of applause to these students. Down here. Sorry, I didn't mean to point to us over there. We do have one more piece left for you this evening as well, and it's a special one because I got to bring a friend of mine onto campus that we've been talking about bringing him on for quite a while. Our special guest this evening is Tom Rarick, who maybe some of you that follow Drum Corps International know as the Director of Percussion at the Bluecoats Drum and Bugle Corps, who are fresh off winning a Drum Corps International gold medal this past August. His music that he writes with the Bluecoats is some of my favorite, not just in Drum Corps, but ever. And he's been a good friend of mine for a number of years as we judge around the country's indoor drumline competitions. And we've got to really know each other in that regard as well. He's also a retired member of the United States Air Force Ceremonial Brass, and served in that capacity for 20 years? 24. I was 2+ decades. So we are going to play a piece of his tonight. And when I brought up to Tom, they're like, hey, I'd like to play this piece, you know, and he sent it to me a while ago, and I was like, let's play this piece. And then we got to talking, and I was like, well, what if he came? And what if he played one of the parts? And what if he recorded it and videoed it and did all these things? So we actually brought Tom in on Thursday. He worked with the students. He recorded some audio for us. He's going to come back in May to finish the video. But from Thursday to today, he flew to Houston on Saturday, judged the drumline competition, and flew in this morning just to play with us. So landed at 12 o'clock from Houston, sorry, and is here to play with us. So I'd like to bring to the stage and maybe talk about the piece a little bit, and to close our concert here, Mr. Tom Rarick.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here tonight, and I was really honored when Omar asked me to come here and to have his students perform this work, and for me to perform on it. So, and as he mentioned, a lot of my experience, or the vast catalog of what I've arranged or composed has been for the marching arts, drum corps, marching band, that kind of thing. And kind of at the time when I was retiring from the Air Force, I got a call from one of my clients, a longtime friend. His name is Hector Heel, and he's the director. Well, he just recently retired. He was at Vista Ridge High School in Austin, Texas. They were selected for the TMEA convention to play as a featured concert there. And he had an idea, because we share a mentor, to have, for me to write a piece that featured the three of us, Hector, myself, and Dr. Brian West, who is the director of percussion at Texas Christian University. So it was really an opportunity for me to do something a little outside what I usually do, and kind of head down that road a little bit. And also, most importantly, is to have just friends perform music together and kind of pay homage to a friendship. So we got to play that at the convention. It's been performed a couple other places, but was really just impressed with the preparation of the students and the time that I've had here, and really honored to be part of. Just get to see this kind of culture and what's been built here. So I thank them, and I'm excited to perform it, and with my new friends. So it's written for a kind of a featured snare drum trio, kind of a high pitch, middle, and a field drum, that kind of thing, and a supportive kind of percussion ensemble around it. So really hope you enjoy Scroll, and it's a pleasure to be here today. So thanks so much.
Yeah.